Y'all, something explosive is beginning to unfold in Hollywood, and the names involved are so powerful that many people never expected them to be connected to the same story. What started as quiet whispers behind closed doors is now turning into a storm of accusations, alliances, and shocking claims. Now, Ice Cube is stepping forward with statements that are sending waves across the internet. According to reports, he's been raising serious questions about the influence of media icon Oprah Winfrey, suggesting that powerful figures in entertainment may have operated behind the scenes for years. But the situation gets even more controversial because Cube has recently appeared alongside political commentator Tucker Carlson, where discussions turned toward alleged connections involving music mogul Sean Diddy Combs and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. The claims are dramatic, the stakes are massive, and the internet is watching closely as these accusations begin to spark an intense new debate about power, influence, and secrets in Hollywood.
Once again, they had the whole cast on, but I wasn't invited, so I don't know.
On Oprah's show.
Yeah, so I don't know what that's.
But Oprah's obviously a saintly, godlike figure who's revered by all decent people. Why would she exclude you?
I really don't know. You know, that's something that I would love to find out. But I can't tell you, you know, if there's a single thing that I've done or said to her.
Have you noticed that it is more controversial to criticize Oprah than to burn the American flag?
Really?
Seems that way. I've never heard anybody criticize
Jeffrey Epstein, P. Diddy. What do you think is going to happen with all that now?
I knew a lot of people who knew Jeffrey Epstein, like a lot. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, thank God. I certainly knew a lot of people who knew him, and like a lot, like more than 10. Jeffrey Epstein was not considered like some far-out sinister figure in the world that I lived in. I mean, I'm just being totally honest about this. He was like this kind of interesting guy who had, you know, had this kind of rotating salon at his house off Fifth Avenue in New York, and there was always the Israeli prime minister and former presidents and like just interesting people, you know? I did not understand what that was about at all, and so when he died, I was like, oh, poor guy, he killed himself in prison. And then I got a call from his brother, just randomly. And his brother said, you know, he did not commit suicide. I was really shocked by that. And I thought, maybe his brother's crazy. So this set off a multi-year journey for me that really changed my views about a lot of different things. And the bottom line is Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. And not only murdered, but he was murdered in the most secure federal lockup in Midtown Manhattan. In the country. And so what is that? What is that? Think about that.
Ice Cube is now claiming that powerful media forces have been turned into a weapon against him. According to Cube, the moment he started speaking about hidden connections surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and powerful figures in entertainment, the narrative around him suddenly changed. Headlines began portraying him as unstable, reckless, even dangerous. Labels he believes were carefully designed to discredit his voice before people could listen to what he was actually saying. Cube argues that this isn't random criticism. He insists that influential media networks tied to figures like Oprah Winfrey hold enormous power behind the scenes, shaping which stories reach the public and which ones quietly disappear. In his view, those connections allow certain circles to shield themselves whenever names linked to Epstein or other powerful elites begin surfacing. And Cube says the real system goes even deeper. According to him, the highest levels of Hollywood operate like a closed club where loyalty is rewarded and exposure is punished. Speak openly about Epstein or challenge the people protecting those secrets, and the consequences, he warns, can become far more serious than simple criticism.
But I've been shut out. You know, some platforms will not have me on.
Why?
They don't like that I'm, you know, an independent thinker. I'm not part of the herd. I'm not part of the go along to get along gang, so to speak. So, you know, I'm an outsider. And so, you know, I'm not part of the club. So I have to go places for one, that I'm welcome, and where I can voice my opinion without somebody, you know, saying I'm a bad person and that they never want to have me on their platform again.
What platforms have banned you?
I've been, you know, I tried to go on The View. They didn't have me on The View.
Why?
Well, a few of the guests just really didn't like where I was coming from. So, or a few of the hosts, I mean. So that's what I was told by the producers. And I don't know if the producers was just copping out and using some of the hosts to not have me come on and explain myself, but...
You'd be a good booking for them.
I've been on there before.
Yeah.
You know, it's just when I've became an independent thinker, when I've, you know, I'm not I don't follow their brand of politics, I guess.
But if you can't think for yourself, then you're not really free, are you?
No, you're not. You're not. But I've been excluded. I've been excluded on Oprah.
On Oprah?
On Oprah, yeah. I've been excluded. Yeah, man.
I would think you'd be the person Oprah would want to promote. I mean, you grew up in South Central. You were successful at a young age. You have dignity. You say what you think.
For decades, quiet whispers have circulated throughout the entertainment world. Stories from actors, musicians, journalists, and even former insiders who claimed that something far darker existed beneath Hollywood's glamorous image. Some of those whispers even brushed against the shadowy network surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, a name that continues to surface whenever powerful connections and hidden influence are discussed. And strangely, many of the people who tried to speak openly about those uncomfortable possibilities seemed to run into sudden obstacles. Careers stalling overnight, projects quietly vanishing, and reputations being torn apart in public. Now Ice Cube says he was never welcomed into the powerful circles that dominate Hollywood. He claims he never played by their unspoken rules, never attended their private gatherings, and never depended on elite insiders to build his success. According to Cube, that distance may be exactly why he believes he's being singled out now, especially after raising questions about the same elite networks that have been linked to Epstein's powerful contacts. In a recent TikTok video, Cube delivered a warning directed at what he called Hollywood's gatekeepers. Without naming anyone at first, he hinted that those involved already know who they are and what they've been hiding. The clip spread rapidly across social media, fueling speculation everywhere. Then, weeks later, Cube finally dropped a name: Oprah Winfrey. According to him, she stands near the center of the very power structure he believes has shaped Hollywood's narrative for years. The same structure critics claim once shielded figures connected to Epstein.
Yo, what's cracking? You know what it is. It's your homeboy Ice Cube. And some of you may not have realized that I'm not part of the club. And a lot of you listening to me right here, right now, you're not part of the club either. And what I realized with the club is what makes them so mad is when you don't want to be a part of their club. That pisses them off. What club am I talking about? I'm talking about the club of gatekeepers that we all got to deal with. You know who they are, and they definitely know who they are. A lot of people would be like, what? Who? Come on, man, stop playing. So, ever since I put out the contract with Black America, you know they've been with me. Here and there, this and that. But it's cool, you know.
According to Ice Cube, the story surrounding Sean Diddy Combs may be far more complicated than what the public has been told. Cube suggests that Diddy, much like figures connected to the network around Jeffrey Epstein, may have been elevated by powerful circles only as long as he served a purpose. For years, Diddy appeared nearly untouchable, dominating music, business, and celebrity culture while maintaining close proximity to influential elites. But Cube claims that level of protection only lasts while someone stays within boundaries set by those behind the curtain. In Cube's view, the moment someone grows too powerful or unpredictable, the protection disappears. He argues that Diddy's rapid fall from one of the most influential figures in entertainment to facing serious legal trouble happened with shocking speed, raising questions about how quickly support can vanish once alliances break down. Cube believes both Diddy and Epstein represent something larger, figures who, in his opinion, were allowed to rise, then later publicly destroyed. According to him, the real danger is that these dramatic scandals may keep public attention focused on individuals while deeper systems of influence and power remain hidden and untouched.
You're hearing Diddy everywhere. Okay?
Yeah.
So, did you ever have any kind of run-in with Diddy? Did you ever do anything with Diddy? Any projects you worked on with them?
He produced a few records, or had his producers do a few records on my War and Peace album. Peace This. Yeah.
How was he to work with?
It was cool. You know, he gave us great music. We flew out to New York, and I was mainly in the studio with the producer. You know, he had a stable of producers, so I was in studio with his stable of producers, and I think we did some great music. And I really, kind of lost contact with him and really stopped, dealing with Puffy around 94.
Yeah. Any specific reason?
Yeah, I mean, they was doing their thing, I was doing mine. And, I'm not the partying type. You know what I mean? I ain't never been to a Diddy party. I ain't never really wanted to go. But I don't go to a lot of people's parties. That just ain't what I'm...
According to Ice Cube, the collapse surrounding Sean Diddy Combs wasn't simply a sudden burst of accountability. Cube suggests it may have been something far more calculated. A moment when the same powerful circles that once protected him decided to step back and let the spotlight fall directly on him. In Cube's view, the pattern resembles what many observers once pointed out in the case of Jeffrey Epstein, a figure whose connections to powerful elites raised questions about how influence can operate behind closed doors. Cube claims Diddy may have served the interests of powerful people for years, benefiting from the protection and prestige that came with those relationships. But according to this theory, protection only lasts as long as silence does. The moment controversies began growing louder and attention intensified, Cube believes those alliances began to fracture. What Cube says made things worse was Diddy's own public behavior. In interviews and appearances, he reportedly spoke openly about the influential guests who attended his exclusive parties. By repeatedly bringing those names into the conversation, Cube argues Diddy may have crossed a line, saying things out loud that powerful people prefer to keep unspoken, especially when the same elite networks had already been scrutinized in connection with Epstein.
Are you surprised at what things are coming out with Diddy at all, or you're like, you have no idea, it's none of my business, you'll live long? Kind of like the mindset.
I'm surprised. How could you be surprised with anything that happens in hip hop? Hip hop is the Wild West. So you're gonna have the good, you're gonna have the bad, you're gonna have the ugly.
You think he's being targeted, or some of the stuff he's got, there's credibility on what they're coming after him with the tapes and the feds and raiding his Miami home, his LA home?
I believe he's being targeted.
You believe he's being targeted?
Yeah. I believe, somebody, has the power to pull the trigger to make, this stuff, just domino effect happen.
Okay. All right. So you think he's being targeted. So you don't think, Shook said, you can say what you want about Diddy, but Diddy didn't learn to like young boys. He learned it from a man named Clive Davis. He threw Clive Davis in there. It doesn't sound like you're part of that camp. You're part of the camp that you think he's being targeted.
I don't know enough to even be able to be specific on any of this stuff. It's just all speculation. I just know he was cool up until a point, and then this stuff started happening. So I believe somebody, like I said, yo, he's our new guy. We on.
Cube, the parallels between Sean Diddy Combs and Jeffrey Epstein are difficult to ignore. In his view, both men moved through worlds defined by extreme wealth, influence, and exclusive access to powerful circles. Their lives were filled with private jets, elite guest lists, and closed-door gatherings where some of the most recognizable names in entertainment and politics reportedly crossed paths. Cube argues that the accusations surrounding both figures follow a disturbingly familiar pattern. Each man, he says, faced claims that the very power and influence they possessed may have been used in ways that raised serious questions about what was happening behind those guarded doors. And according to Cube, neither figure operated in isolation. Instead, he believes they were surrounded by networks of powerful people who benefited from silence and discretion. When controversies finally exploded into the public eye, the same details seemed to surface again and again. Luxury travel, exclusive parties, and sealed legal records that left the public wondering what might still remain hidden. To Cube, those repeating elements suggest a deeper system of influence that critics say has appeared repeatedly in conversations about Epstein and the circles connected to him.
Diddy. That's the other tricky thing. Like, Diddy hung out with everybody, and I've spoken to a bunch of people who are like, yo, great dude, like, always there for you, never asked for a single thing.
Till 1 a.m.
And then
Then
freak off.
Everybody
the
says, "Get out of the house."
Yeah.
It's like the gremlins start eating after midnight. Everybody who tells the stories like, I saw her go upstairs and these dudes are fucking like right on the couch.
Yeah.
And then I go in this room and these guys are fucking, and it's like,
yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. And that's the other thing. Like, I wonder, like, is that just a power thing?
it's a Caligula thing.
What does that mean?
Caligula, like the emperor. Did you ever see that movie, Caligula?
No.
It's about just Roman empires being completely out of control. Caligula is like almost like, and it was a movie made, I want to say in the 70s. It's a crazy movie, but it's just detailing extreme excess where you can never fill the hole.
But what is the hole you need to fill? Like, I'm trying to find, like, what's the
Just
catalyst?
chaos. What year was this? 79. Yeah. That's Malcolm McDowell, right? Yeah. Yeah, the dude from Clockwork Orange.
Oh, yeah.
It's a crazy movie, man.
But
And it's still mild in comparison to what Absolute have. Absolute power corrupts. Caligula.
Okay, so then there's the question. It's like, can you take a completely normal person, give them power, and then they become that? Or does it take a power-hungry person that has this void that they need to be filled, that needs to be filled, and then when they are given that power, you see the worst version of them?
Ask your CIA boy. I bet he'd get the answers. I bet he knows exactly.
The only difference between Diddy and Epstein is that Diddy managed to get away. Allegedly, this case was never about Diddy. It was always about getting access to the tapes Diddy had. And once the elites found those, they didn't care if Diddy got away. Ice Cube and others believe the federal raids, the sudden media frenzy, and even the carefully crafted narrative around Diddy's case were all part of a larger operation.
Outside the courthouse, Sean Combs' mother just returned here. She walked in just a second ago, said she is feeling good because her son was acquitted of the most serious charges that he faced, both of which could have sent him to prison for life. He was convicted, though, of transportation to engage in prostitution, and that charge could put him in prison for up to 20 years, although it's not expected he would get that much time. What we're waiting for now is the judge to decide whether Combs can be released on bail while he awaits his sentencing. He offered to put up $1 million. He put up his homes in Miami and Los Angeles. They're certainly opulent. The jury, the judge, everybody saw pictures of them. And the judge said he would convene a hearing later this afternoon to determine if Combs should be released.
But there's a big question as to where he's going to go. Some people think he's going to go to a minimum security facility, and other people say he's not eligible. And I agree, because it's a crime.
Prosecutors, they said in their filing yesterday that it's a crime of violence. We'll see how it goes down when it goes to sentencing. But
you know what? Hold on. I know we're out. We don't have a lot of time. Here's something nobody's pointed out. That judge can hit him what's called relevant conduct, where they could actually sentence and enhance him for things that he either was acquitted of, found not guilty of, based on the conduct of what he did. So he may get more time.
The judge has a lot of discretion here. You know, there's no minimum. Max is 10. There's been talk about would he even go past the guidelines, because you're talking about multiple instances of transportation to engage in prostitution and two victims.
Relevant conduct allows the judge to do that.
Right.
The defense will say he abused his discretion, but he really didn't, because the judge has all the discretion he wants.
That's 100%. That's why he's going to need as much information from a pre-investigation report. Let me ask you this. If he goes to prison, if he's sentenced to prison, he was acquitted of racketeering. He was acquitted of trafficking, but he was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution. Does he walk in a king, or does he walk in a pariah? How do other inmates look at him if he was acquitted?
You know what? He was acquitted on some charges.
Yeah.
People win. I mean, on multiple counts, people sometimes get things dismissed all the time. Fact is, he's no better than anyone else. He's a convicted felon. But what he's going to face is all these people are going to be sucking up to him because of who he is and thinking that he can do something to further their career.
A big update right now. Remember how we were just saying this is the best possible outcome for the defense? Combs agrees and the defense agrees. Combs, after being led out by marshals, as he was being led out, he knelt down in front of his chair and bowed his head down as if he was praying. When he stood up, he faced the gallery and he began to clap, prompting the gallery to clap and cheer. Combs' attorneys, they all exchanged hugs and the gallery continued to cheer for him.
1703. Did he manage to beat a federal case? And according to growing rumors online, it wasn't luck or a brilliant legal team that saved him. It was a deal. Whispers in the industry suggest that Diddy struck a behind-the-scenes agreement with the elites. In exchange for his freedom, he allegedly handed over the one thing they truly wanted: evidence. The same evidence he had been using as protection for years: tapes, documents, names, and connections.
This is shocking. This was an enormous defeat for prosecutors. The three big charges, which is why they prosecuted him in the first place, the jury acquitted Diddy.
They only found him guilty on what we knew all along were the easiest things to find him guilty of. That was the transportation for purposes of prostitution, the Mann Act.
Which is sending a prostitute across state lines. Right. Happens every day.
We knew before the trial started he was guilty of those.
They never would have filed these charges if it were just that. This undeniably is an enormous embarrassment for prosecutors, and it really underscores what Mark Agnifilo was saying, that they tried to make it about baby oil and Astroglide and all that other stuff. And the jury,
but you can't ignore the fact that they looked through also Cassie's emotional testimony. Pregnant Cassie testifying
and didn't
wasn't
buy
enough.
it.
It wasn't enough.
Didn't buy it. It is undeniably a victory for Diddy, even though he's going to spend time in prison, it would seem.
Today's a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough. They acquitted him of the sex trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of, and all of the components to it. The thing, he was innocent of that. The arson, he was innocent of that. The obstructing justice, he was innocent of that. And that is no longer just me saying that. That is the verdict of our jury.
And after nearly a 2-month trial with 34 witnesses and hours of salacious testimony, a jury of 8 men and 4 women finds Sean Diddy Combs not guilty of racketeering and sex trafficking, but guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The judge is currently deciding right now whether Combs will actually be released today. His defense arguing that since the music mogul was acquitted of the most serious crimes, he should be able to go home. Once court was adjourned, family members cheered today's verdict. Combs' son, Christian, telling ABC News how happy he is.
Hey, yo, we love y'all. We love everybody watching. So happy. His pop's coming home. God bless. God bless the whole world.
What was going through your head when the verdict was read?
Despite the not guilty verdict, Diddy still isn't off the hook. The judge has denied his bail, meaning that Diddy is going to stay in jail until his sentencing in October. Right now, Diddy is facing 20 years in prison, and if the judge decides, he can increase that number to a life sentence. Judge Arun doesn't have to follow the federal guidelines. This has left many speculating whether the judge is planning to make an example out of Diddy.
Combs has been denied bail after the verdict in his sex trafficking case, and here's how he took the news. According to NBC News reporters in the courtroom, Combs appeared, quote, deflated as his hopes of going home were seemingly dashed as his lawyers attempted to convince Judge Aaron Subramanian to release their client ahead of his sentencing. In his ruling, Subramanian cited Combs' years-long pattern of violence as a reason for him to remain behind bars, adding that he continues to be a danger to others and unable to follow the law, arguing that Combs, who pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, force, fraud, or coercion, as well as transportation to engage in prostitution, was acquitted on the 3 most serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, and only convicted of prostitution-related offenses. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo insisted he should be released on appropriate conditions. As Agnifilo outlined, Combs would be willing to put up a $1 million cash bond co-signed by his mom Janice Combs, his sister Keisha Combs, and Sarah Chapman, the mother of Combs' eldest daughter Chance Combs, and have no access to his private plane, which is currently grounded in Maui. He also agreed to surrender his passport, undergo drug testing, and restrict travel to areas of New York, Florida, and California as necessary to attend court and meet with lawyers.
Bro, you got to realize you got people like Prince Harry. Prince Harry was at a Diddy party. You got some of the same Universal executives. Diddy made it cool for, I'm just gonna say it like this, man, whites to hang out with the hood dudes. Dude from the hood, he made it cool and safe for them to hang out with the white executives. They used them for that. They used them enough, whereas that now you got white executives doing Diddy-like parties. Remember the dude from, Frantic? The clothing line, the sports line? They was mad because they didn't get invites to his party because he was doing white parties, doing parties like Diddy. Now I ain't talking about the freak-off party part of it, but I'm just saying, he was doing those parties and everybody, there was rappers, or I think Stephen A. Smith said something about he was upset that he didn't get no invite. So it was those parties that everybody want to be at. So Diddy have on tape, he taped everything. He taped everything and taped everybody.
And now the situation is reaching a boiling point. What started as scattered accusations is turning into a storm that refuses to stay quiet. The names keep getting bigger, the connections keep getting darker, and the shadow of Jeffrey Epstein continues hanging over the entire conversation like a warning that the story might be far from over. Sources online claim that the more Ice Cube talks, the more uncomfortable, powerful figures inside Hollywood appear to become. Because if his claims are even partially true, then the collapse of Sean Diddy Combs might not be the end of a scandal. It could just be the beginning of a much larger unraveling. Critics argue that Epstein's network exposed how deeply influence can stretch across media, politics, and entertainment. Now the internet is asking a dangerous question. Who else knew, who else benefited, and who else managed to stay invisible while the spotlight stayed on a few public faces? Because if Diddy and Epstein were only the figures the public was allowed to see fall, then the real story may still be buried behind layers of power, silence, and protection. And if more insiders decide to speak out the way Ice Cube just did, Hollywood could be staring at the kind of scandal that doesn't simply fade away. It explodes.